Hi, Arab. I wanted to leave you some feedback on your rough draft for SE2. I think that there's a lot of good things in this draft. I think that you made a good choice with the ad that you picked. Um, I think that there is a lot to unpack with this ad. Um, and I'm seeing some good things here. I think at this point, however, the biggest weakness is a lack of clear organization between your paragraphs and lack of a clear thesis statement. So you present the purpose of the ad, right, in the first paragraph, but the writer doesn't get any indication as to what you are using to gear your analysis, right? So, one of the things that we talked about in class is you need a clear thesis statement. So, the reader needs to understand what visual techniques or what lens you are going to use in order to understand what's going on in the ad. In short, in order to analyze it. So I think this sentence really hits the purpose of the ad, but the reader doesn't yet know what your stance is, or essentially what the purpose of the paper is, and that should be presented in the thesis statement. So I think you're missing a clear thesis statement, which is why a lot of these paragraphs are okay in isolation, but they don't really work to form a cohesive whole as an essay, right? But I think once you nail down your thesis statement, you can then begin to revision what these paragraphs are doing and rethink your organization, but also the key ideas, right? So really, what main points you want to hit on to analyze the image. I would also give this a read for awkward sentences. There's quite a few awkward phrasings throughout your paper. So you say the advertisement I chose was the Nike Colin Kaepernick ad run back in 2008. I would do some tweaking right here um, uh, because this phrasing is a little bit confusing. Um, and then you say the ad was meant to push people to do whatever they believe in and follow their dreams. It was originally a commercial that aired on television during times of racial injustice and police brutality, which still goes on today. So you need to pause here and unpack that. You touch on it later on in the paper, but I don't think that that's the best place for it. I think really you present the idea in your introduction, but the reader needs more clear context. So this is a good place to take a stand. Yeah, because this is really what the ad is about. Primarily, the ad is tapping into the. Excuse me, I sneezed. I'm sorry. The ad is tapping into the Black Lives Matter movement. That's really what this ad is about. Um, the other layers are that you can, broadly, it's talking about dreams. So Kaepernick can be an inspiration for Black Lives Matter. Kaepernick can be an inspiration for athletes or anybody with a dream. And then you're right. The other message is to sell product, right? So then maybe that's a way to unpack the ad. Like, what are the different layers, and which layer, which message is the most effective and why. Um, I like your description. I think that you're missing some things here that are needed. If you pay attention to the composition, right, I would take some time describing Kaepernick's face, his expression, and the fact that he locks eyes with the viewer. This really should be a good portion of your analysis and help you think about if the ad is effective or not. So, why didn't the ad show Kaepernick kneeling? Why didn't the ad show Kaepernick on the field, right? It's zoomed in on his face with his eyes looking directly at you. Um, with no color whatsoever. And he has a very serious, somber look on his face. I feel like that's a missed opportunity in this paper, because really his expression and the composition has a lot to do with what's going on in this paper. So we spent a lot of time this week and last week talking about composition with images, and I feel that that's one thing that's really lacking from this paper. And maybe that also could help you figure out what the thesis is, right? So how does the composition help sell the idea? As I said before, I like the paragraphs individually, but they don't seem to quite run together yet as a cohesive whole. And I think that's primarily because you're lacking a clear thesis statement. So I think the first thing for you to do is sit down and reread the paper. Then outside of the paper, work on a clear thesis, right? You can use those thesis stems that we went over in class if you need help getting started. And then once you have your thesis, you can then begin thinking about, okay, so if my thesis says that the composition, let's just say, for example, or the lack of color, for example, really helps with the ad's message, then you're going to spend the majority of the paper arguing those points, right? Unpacking those points. So you'll probably re-see what you're doing in some of these paragraphs, right? Rethinking your key ideas. So I think if you do that, this could be pretty effective. But I would argue at this point, it does indeed need some revision. All right. Let me know if you have any questions.